for meeting with us. I know you're extremely busy these days and extremely successful with your new show and a new comic book coming. I would love if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. And I don't know if you all know, welcome to the Resouce Cafe, our new out in the community Resouce Cafe for Thrive in the 05. We have a local celebrity with us that I didn't even know we had. From our Thrive in the 05 community. So thanks for being with us.
I'm glad to be here. My name is Jon Proudstar. I play Leon on Reservation Dogs, which plays on Hulu, FX. I'm also the creator of Tribal Force, the first all-native superhero comic book in the history of the United States. We also got centered into the Smithsonian Institute for being the first all-native superhero comic book. And that's me. Tucson born and bred. And I love it. I love my town. I love my little town.
I love it here too. I'm not from here, but I consider it my home. I love this town. And so tell me, when I was growing up, I never saw a lot of stars, let alone superheroes that looked anything like me or like anything like my family or my culture. And when I moved to Tucson, I felt even more so. So how did you make it from this town to where you are when so many of us, never see that path that way?
I had always wanted it, and I was always curious why we weren't, why we didn't have a presence, or whenever we did, it was actually a non-native or non-Latino painted up to look like us.
Right.
And I'm like, can we not play ourselves? Like what's going on? And even in the comic books, all the superheroes were Caucasian.
Yeah.
Very few. My heroes growing up were Jay Silverhills from The Lone Ranger and Tonto, because I knew he was an actual native, and Conan the Barbarian, because he kind of looked native, kind of looked Mexican, he got long hair and dark skin. But I always just wondered why, and then I waited for these companies to create characters, and they never really did, and when they did, they would kill them off quick. And I'm like, is that our destiny, And then as I got a little older, 18, 19 years old, I started creating these characters in my head, not really knowing that I was going to make a comic book. I thought it would be interesting. Maybe I could apply at Marvel, and I'd have this huge portfolio of minority heroes that they would look at. But I don't know. I just one day something upset me, and that's what usually happens. I get real mad, and I'm a very stubborn guy. And I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start doing it and start creating it and talking to people, talking to comic shop owners. And Charlie Harris from Fantasy Comics got me in touch with Tim Truman, who's a famous comic book artist and writer, creator, scout. And I started talking to him, asking him, hey, how do I, do this? That's basically how I got into everything. The movies. We used to have a thriving movie business here in Tucson, and nobody would tell me how to get in. So I said, screw it, I'm just gonna sneak onto a set. And I saw guys with walkie-talkies, and I saw a trailer that had the walkie-talkies, so I'm like, I need one of those walkie-talkies. So I just walked in there, grabbed one, put it on my side, started walking around, lifting stuff and moving stuff, and eventually somebody was like, which department are you? And I'm like, sneaking in department? They're like, so you're not, nobody hired you. And I'm like, no. And they're like, you want a job? And I'm like, yeah. And that's how I got my start. And I was able to communicate with other people to find out, how do you do that? How do you get into that? What do I have to do to get in there? And I was never wealthy. I came, my grandmother and I lived off of 22nd and 3rd, right by the railroad tracks, right by El Casino Ballroom.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of money, so I had always known if something costs a lot, I'm probably not going to be able to do it or get it, like acting classes or portfolios. I knew I was always going to have to get the dollar store version of everything. So Reservation Dogs, the one thing that I love about it is that it proved our stories are likable, our stories are interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
From a Native American and Latino perspective. We go through a unique experience in this country, being who we are, walking the two roads that we have to walk. We all do it. We go home, we speak differently.
Yes.
We go to work, we have our work voice.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
professional voice.
Code switching is what we call it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
With the advent of the internet, it's given us the power and ability to reach out to other communities far and wide, where they can't repress us, where they can't take those stories, and they can't perpetuate the lies that they have been told or been telling us and our family that we didn't have an important role to play in the fabrication of this country.
right.
That we came from an empire, we came from an advanced civilization that existed here before the Europeans showed up. And the more we find out about those cultures and civilizations, they were beautiful, fascinating, and incredible. And when you learn that that's where you come from, that that's directly in your blood, and we're still eating the same food, and there's still things that we're doing that they did way back then, that's where the sense of pride comes from. Those gems have survived for a reason. They were super important to us, and they stayed within our culture, and we hid them, and now we're bringing them back out and showing everyone, hey, look. And now that the government is trying to figure out how to sustain life in this country, they're figuring out, well, the communities that were here when we first got here,
Oh my gosh, did they not know? Because they
were
were
surviving beautifully with the land. Maybe we should talk to these people.
Yes. I hear, yes.
And bring that back. And we're trying to bring that back because we did. Again, we were an amazing culture. There's a really good book called Red, Black, and Dangerous, or not that one, The Red Man's Gospel. And they're accounts of Europeans with the first natives. And a lot of them was in Central America. And they talked about how beautiful the people were. That they all had straight teeth and they smelled good. And the Europeans felt embarrassed because they didn't realize how bad they smelled until they were around natives. And they realized, like, oh my God, I have this horrendous body odor.
Yeah.
And these people smell pleasant. They smell like flowers or whatever. And they saw that the natives were bathing at least 3 times a day. And they used to think that bathing was bad. That, that's why they only bathe once or twice a week. You go from feeling alone, being alone, you're walking the streets looking for a gang or looking for a clica or a barrio to belong to, and then when you learn about your culture and actually see that it was amazing and advanced, all of a sudden, like when I learned about my culture, I felt like I had an army behind me.
Yes.
It wasn't just me anymore.
Yeah.
It was an army, and it was this responsibility to continue this incredible legacy that they left me. And people often wonder, like, God, how do you keep going? I've seen you lose jobs, I've seen you broke, I've seen you struggle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because
of that, because of the debt that I owe those people, and the trial and tribulations that they went through, and the thousands, maybe millions of our people that had to die for us to survive, for us to be here, for all of us to be here right now, sitting here today. People died, gave their lives, and they're unknown. Their names will never be known. They're archaeological digs in the desert right now. They're bodies that we'll never probably uncover and know their story. But they're there. It's in our blood. And we owe those people, we owe those individuals not to let them be forgotten. And to not be forgotten is to remember the cultura, the culture, and I'm of mixed blood. I'm Yaqui, Jewish, Mexican, and Irish. And I'm very proud of all of them. I'm very proud of all my lineage. So there was a period where natives were like, you're not native enough. Oh, you're not registered? Well, you're fake Indian. Or Latinos would look down on natives, especially in Mexico for a long time. They're like, oh, you're part Indian? And that's embarrassing. And now I see that there's a resurgence in Mexico, that people are becoming proud of their Indian ancestry. And that's the biggest thing that people don't understand, because a lot of people look at us and say, well, why are you doing this now? Why all of a sudden? No, it's not all of a sudden.
No, it's true.
It's like, this is what those marches were for. This is what, what our people died for. This is why possibly your ancestors were repressing that, because they were smart enough to see the value in that legacy. they were like, man, if they realize how powerful they are, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. And the more opportunity that they give Latinos and they give Native Americans, they see us thrive. You give, a kid, an undocumented kid, the opportunity to come to school, and he will take off, man, like he's got nitrous or nitro in him, man. And because that's how we are. You give us something simple, and we'll turn it into something. We'll use it to cultivate.
Yeah, well,
we don't need
I
was a high school dropout. I was horrible in school. I was a bad student because I was daydreaming all the time. And there were no teachers that knew how to work with what I had. There was a teacher, Miss Sterling, in high school that convinced me to start writing. She's the reason I'm a writer now. But she saw the benefit of my daydreaming. She saw the value in my stories, and she put no parameters. She was like, write about whatever you want to write about. There were things I wrote about from my culture, and she had this natural curiosity where she was like, what does that mean? And she's like, oh, that's fascinating. So it was the first moment of validation that I had to like, hey, they think my culture's fascinating because they don't know about it. They literally don't know about us. So the more that we put out there, the more that they realize about us, the world will see our value. And they'll realize that we are an important thread in the fabric of this country. That without us, this place wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
Imagery of Wonder Woman and Princess Leia and all these incredible things that you see out there, they're derived from images from our culture.
I know. This is part of it where I was like,
George Lucas took the idea
like...
of Princess Leia from Mexicana Rebel.
That makes sense.
And she's standing there with the buns and the gun, and George was like, hey, that's a powerful image. Do we know that? Do Latinos know that? No.
I didn't know that.
No. But that's the importance of what we're doing now, what everyone's doing now, and these young kids that are coming up being told, your stories mean something. It has value. And I can't do it all, so I need people to come in. And there's some amazing Latino and Native American comic creators coming up that are just, I'm so impressed by them. And their stories are so cool, and I'm so proud of them. I'm proud to be a part of that lineage, but for kids, the most important thing is that validation. And it's the teachers that we're putting in the school districts that we need to realize they're the first point of contact with our children from the outside world. As kids, we look at teachers as, that guide. Like, they're going to tell me how well I'm going to do. And imagine being a kid being told that you're weird, that the stuff that you're doing has no value, and you need to do this. You got to stop doing that. Stop reading comic books. I was constantly being barraged by teachers, these mentors, or quote-unquote mentors that were supposed to be helping me, weren't. And thank God I was stubborn. Thank God I was like, I don't care what you say then. If you're not going to tell me what I want to hear,
I'll go find
I'm going to, And then when I found the people, the right mentors, and boy, it was just amazing. I felt like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I can do something here. But there was a lot I needed to learn, and I sought that knowledge out. And that's the one thing I tell young people is, it's out there. I didn't have any special breaks or anything like that. Everything that's happening around me, a large part of it was from my pushing and just continuing to do it. And luckily, other talented people saw me and recognized me, like Sterling from Reservation Dogs, the director. He remembered me for the projects that he had done. And I was fortunate enough that he remembered me when he got his break. So he gave me my break. So now I owe Sterling. I gotta make sure I go help somebody and do what he did for me for somebody else.
So, thank you so much for all your time so far. I wanted to see what other things you wanted to talk about, what other things you have coming up. I know comic book and Comic-Cons are a thing, and the show is like getting so much good press and it's everywhere right now. Like, what are the things you would love to leave us with, to share, to check out?
Well, I'm going to be at the San Diego Comic-Con with Tribal Force, 21st to the 24th, and then I'll be here in Tucson for the Tucson Comic-Con, which is near and dear to my heart. And then I have 7 movies coming out this year
Oh, wow.
that I've done. And just follow me on Facebook, and I will be announcing when those will be coming out and where they'll be coming out. And it was amazing because I got to play all these cool different characters. And there's some movies that I've auditioned for that I'm waiting to hear about, so I can't say anything about, which sucks.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm constantly doing things. And you know, if you're a young person and you're trying to start your comic book or whatever, you can contact me on Facebook. I'll write you back. I'll give you whatever advice I can give you, you know, to point you along the way. I'm very accessible. I try to be accessible to anyone. You don't have to just be Native American or Latino. You know, I love working with kids. I've done that all my life, 32 years, working with survivors of child molestation and violent youth offenders. And a lot of the characters in Tribal Force, the main character is a survivor of child molestation, and one of the kids is a violent youth offender, so they're not perfect people. My ideas were with me when I was a kid. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I had these ideas in my head, and they had relevance. Now they have relevance. I'm 55 years old, and those thoughts haven't changed. The ideas haven't changed. Kids just need to know that those things have value. And they need somebody like us telling them that, or giving them that shot and that opportunity to develop those skills, or to explain to them why certain things in school are important. I didn't think school was important because I couldn't see the value in what they were teaching me. But when I got older and I was like, oh, they were trying to teach me this in school about homework and about legible writing and handing your homework in on time. Those are skills. Those are skills that I don't have now, and I got to reteach myself at 25, 26 years old. And I would look at people with education and be like, man, they're so far ahead of me. But that, it didn't want to make me quit, it just made me want to work harder.
And so, look where you are now. So
yeah,
kids,
look where I am now.
Even
look where
if
I am now,
terrible
kids.
in school.
Even if you're a bad student.
You're a bad student, it's okay.
It's okay. That doesn't mean that's going to be your life.
And I love that you said you relearned and retaught yourself. That's another...
It's never too late to learn. I'm 55 and I'm still learning. But when I was a kid, I would say, I'm going to go do that.
I love it.
No matter what anyone said around me, like, oh, you're crazy, you're stupid. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. And everyone that knows me now knows when I say stuff like that, they're like, oh my God, he's going to do it. Come hell or high water. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to do it. And I was recently submitted for the Emmys. I didn't get it. I didn't get the nomination. But if you think about it, a kid from 22nd and 3rd Avenue that ate tortillas and beans and went to, you know, Brickta Elementary, St. Peter and Paul, Tucson High, Catalina. And I was up there for possibly being nominated for the Emmys. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
I love it. Yay. Well, we're going to keep an eye out for all the new movies and the comic books. And I appreciate your time, and we will be reaching out to you for our events with kids in the neighborhoods. I know this will be the last one. Thank you
If I'm here,
so
I'll be
much.
there.
Yeah.